Hello, everyone. Good morning, America. Good afternoon, Europe, Africa, and good evening, Asia and Australasia. My name is Napapong Napang. I'm your Vice President for Asia and Australasia. I will be your host today. And thank you so much for supporting the ISRT Facebook Live. Believe it or not, we're going to do this in regular basis. Today, we come to have the episode of quality control of radiological equipment as a role of radiographers. Why we have this episode, we got also a request and comment from our member, especially for this topic. I got the request from our colleague in Indonesia, and our colleague in Indonesia asked me, why don't we make a Facebook Live session on this topic, because in their country they want to really start to do QC as the role of radiographer, and they want to listen from their colleague from around the world what is the current situation in this. So in this episode, we will feature 4 speakers from around the world again, one from the Americas, one from Europe, one from Africa, and one from Asia. So I will introduce the speaker one by one when we go through their talk. And also we have the panelists today. Again, our president is Donna Newman, the ISRT president. She will be the panelist for today's activity. So I would like to go to the first speaker of today's event. We are so happy again to have Mike Kutlas back to be our speaker. Mike Kutlas is currently Associate Executive Director of the ASRT, the American Society of Radiologic Technology. So Mike will give a talk on the perspective of the USA. Please go ahead, Mike Kutlas.
Well, thank you very much. My name is Mike Kudlas, and I'm the Associate Executive Director at the American Society of Radiologic Technologists. First, I'd like to thank the ISRT for the invitation to speak with you today. It's always an honor to participate in an ISRT program. The title of my talk today is Quality Control in the United States. Now, when we use the term quality control in the US, we're generally referring to equipment. And there's another term called quality assurance. That's a much more broad term that includes quality control, but it also includes other things like patient care, patient throughput, and other aspects of the patient experience. So you will see sometimes that I use the term quality assurance. I'm still talking about quality control. I'm still talking about equipment. The United States is in North America, and our population is 328 million, which makes us the 3rd largest country in the world. Our area is 9.8 million square kilometers, which once again makes us the 3rd largest country in the world in terms of land area. We're made up of 50 individual states and 1 district, which is the District of Columbia, which is where Washington is, our nation's capital. And we also have 4 major territories of Puerto Rico, Guam, the U.S. Virgin Islands, and American Samoa. In terms of quality control and professional practice, we would refer to the ASRT practice standards. Now, our practice standards define our practice and essentially tell a radiographer and radiation therapist what it is that they can and can't do. So I'm just going to go through very quickly some of the standards that we have in our practice standards that point right to quality control. So the first one is is standard 1, which is assessment. And in assessment, one of the general criteria is that radiographers confirm that equipment performance, maintenance, and operation comply with the manufacturer's specifications. That's one of our duties. And that we determine that services are performed in a safe environment, minimizing potential hazards. So obviously making sure that what we're doing is safe with the equipment. In standard 5 evaluation, it says that we evaluate quality assurance results. So we don't just perform quality control tests, we also look at the results of those tests and determine if everything is safe to proceed. We also evaluate the patient, the equipment, and procedures to identify variances that may affect the expected outcome. So once again, we're looking at everything. We're not just going in just to do the procedure. We're evaluating the equipment and the procedure at the same time to make sure that everything is functioning the way that it should. And then in Standard 8, documentation, we maintain documentation of quality assurance activities, procedures, and results. In some cases, that's a state or a federal law that we maintain that documentation, but it's also good practice. And then we also report any out of tolerance deviations to the appropriate personnel. So if you're interested in looking at the ASRT practice standards, if you go to asrt.org/PSC, you'll see all of our practice standards. They're very thorough. You don't have to be a member to look at them, so feel free to go to that website and see what ASRT's practice standards look like. So in terms of our current approach to quality control in the United States, a lot of it is dependent upon the facility size or the resources that the facility has. Larger facilities will have a QC technologist or a medical physicist assistant, it's sometimes called, which is a full-time person to do the quality control testing. This is actually a position that I held for 3 years of my career. I was a medical physicist assistant. But in smaller facilities, quality control will be part of the regular duties of a radiographer or a radiological technologist, generally to be performed at the beginning of the day, or some tests will be done once a week or monthly, something like that. So quality control legislation and accreditation is primarily a state responsibility. So when I lived and worked in Florida, I was very well aware of the Florida Department of Health rules and regulations, and the state would actually come to our facility once a year and test our equipment in addition to what the medical physicist was doing or what I was doing. On a federal level, probably the biggest law from the FDA is the Mammography Quality Standards Act that focuses specifically on mammography. And once again, there'll be testing annually on a state level to look and make sure that we're adhering to the Mammography Quality Standards Act. Then beyond that are individual accreditors. Now most of these accreditors will follow what the state has to say or what MQSA has to say, but there could be a site visit from them as well. So in terms of challenges and the way forward, what I'd like to do is focus on a concept called normalization of deviance. Now this concept was developed by American sociologist named Diane Vaughan. And what she said is that normalization of deviance means that people within an organization become so much accustomed to a deviant behavior that they don't consider it to be deviant anymore, even though it might far exceed their own rules for safety. So as a simple example of normalization of deviance, let's look at seatbelts. We all know that we should wear seatbelts. We all know that they keep us safe. But let's say one day you're in a hurry to get to a birthday party and you jump in the car and go without putting your seatbelt on. And what happens? Nothing happens. You get there, you have a great time, and everybody's safe. But what you've done is you've set yourself up for an inevitable consequence. And that is that if you are in an accident, you're going to be injured. And then you'll look back and say, why did I do this deviant behavior? Why didn't I wear my seatbelt? So another quick example of normalization of deviance in the medical imaging world, one time when I was working as a quality control technologist, I went into an x-ray room to test the equipment, and I discovered that one of the handles on the piece of equipment was missing. And when I asked the technologist what happened to the handle, they said, well, it started getting loose over time, and it got more loose, and finally it was just barely hanging on. So we took it off and set it to the side. And I said, why didn't you call somebody to let us know, and then we could come in and fix it? And they're like, well, we just kind of adapted to it over time. And I think that's one of the characteristics of being a human being that we have to be careful of, is that we do adapt to things over time. And an adaptation is good, but adaptation can also be bad if it leads to normalization of deviance and to a piece of equipment being broken. Now, in this case, it's probably not going to hurt a patient, but it certainly doesn't fill the patient with confidence when they're in your x-ray room and seeing that the equipment is broken. So what is the way forward when it comes to normalization of deviance, and how do we protect ourselves from just adapting to something until a piece of equipment is unusable? I'm going to propose three main ways. The first is to assume the responsibility yourself. Quality control is really a team sport. It's not up to just the physicist. It's not up to the state that comes in or the accrediting body. It's all of our responsibility. So you really need to take that responsibility yourself and perform some quality control on the equipment that you're using. And you can just start simple. Use what you have. This picture here just shows a simple bucket of water. There happens to be a step wedge in there, but there's a lot of other things that you could put in there just to take an image, maybe daily, weekly, to look at that and see, is something changing? Is the equipment not functioning the way that it should be compared to the other times that I've taken an image of this same bucket of water? Just performing simple visual checks on the equipment can prevent some long-term problems as well. So there's a lot of things you can do to start simple. You don't need to have expensive equipment to do quality control and to do a good job. And third is to do a checklist. Airline pilots do this all the time. They're flying an airplane. You would think they would have everything memorized, but they don't rely on their memory. They have a checklist before they take off, and I'm really glad that they do. So for us to have a checklist, is there something we should be checking daily, weekly, or monthly? Talk to your physicist the next time they're in and ask them if there's some things that you can do to keep an eye on the equipment so that you can give the physicist a call or who's ever maintaining your equipment if you do find something that's broken. So as I stated before, quality control is a true team sport. And although the physicist has the primary responsibility for quality in the department, we're the ones that are using the equipment every day. And we're going to see small changes, and we're going to be able to report those out before they become larger issues. So it's really incumbent upon us as radiographers and radiological technologists to perform some sort of quality control to maintain our equipment and to keep our patients safe. Thank you once again for the opportunity to speak to you, and I'll turn it back to you.
All right. Thank you, Michael Lutz, for your comprehensive talk in 10 minutes. I know it's quite difficult to contain everything in 10 minutes, but you did a great job. And I took down some of the keywords from you, include normalization of deviance, assume responsibility, start simple, and then do the checklist. We will go back to you during the question and answer session. And for our colleague from home, I would like you to leave a message in the message box. It's going to be either down below the screen or at the right side of the screen. In case you have any questions or comments, please do so. And then after we finish the round of the speakers, then we will go ahead to do Q&A. And thanks a lot for your watching. Well, we have the second speaker from Europe, and he is very important to our organization, and he represents the Norwegian Society of Radiographers, and he is also the Vice President of ISRT for Europe and Africa. Hakan Gemli will give a talk on the perspective of Norway. Please go ahead, Hakan.
Thank you for the kind introduction, Napapong, and also thank you to the ISRT for inviting me to present on the topic quality control for radiographers. First, I would like to say that the beautiful scenery behind me is from the northern part of Norway, where I grew up. I will share my screen so that you will see my presentation in a minute. There we are. Then we can move like this. Now, of course, I will give the perspectives from Norway, but our neighboring countries in the Nordic don't differ so much from our situation. So I'm quite sure that they will recognize the situation in Norway and also the status today. regarding radiographers and involvement of quality control. Also, Norway is part of Europe, and we follow pretty much what the European Union decides. So there are some similarities also with other European countries. Now, the Norwegian Society of Radiographers, we have Oslo in Oslo. We were established in 1973. We're both a professional society and a trade union, and we have a staff of 9 people. We have around 3,300 members, and 180 of those are our local society representatives spread in most part of the country. And here you see a picture of a photo of our president, Mr. Bent Ronny Vikassen. Now, I said the local representatives were spread all over the country, and it's a very long country, 1,750 kilometers. Most people are living in the south, and we are in total around 5.3 million people. We have a monarchy, and we are also a public-driven and financed health sector. Our income are basically from oil, fish, steel industry, and tourism. And in the map here, you will see where we are situated related to our neighbors in the north, Denmark, Sweden, Europe, Russia, and Iceland, and also in relations to rest of Europe. About radiographers in Norway, we started as postgraduate education for nurses. We were then called X-ray nurses. I don't think there are anyone left of those now, because 50 years ago there was a dedicated radiography program started, and approximately 1/3 of that education is in clinical placement. The education is for free, and you will find it in 6 different places in Norway. Both education and professional practice are technical and patient care focused. And the programs are combined, but you would need postgraduate education in nuclear medicine or in radiotherapy if you want to work independent in those areas. We also have kind of balance in the labor market, but maybe a small overproduction of radiographers at the moment. But then there's a need for radiographers in Sweden and Denmark, so there's kind of a Nordic balance. We have a small but increasing number of advanced practice radiographers, both in reporting radiography and in ultrasound, and also an increase in research, publications, number of master degrees and PhDs done by radiographers. In Norway, we have a long history of quality control, at least we like to think so, and this example are from the time of the Vikings, where one Viking said to another, "This quality control is very tiring, but it's necessary." And the other one says, "Yes, it is." We also have a long tradition of radiographers involved in quality control and other quality assurance tasks. And this is an example, 20 years ago, a photography of myself. I was lucky to be full-time occupied doing quality assurance tasks, and I was also radiation protection officer for a medium-sized hospital in Norway. Now, there were not that many radiographers doing this full-time back then, but there were some, but there were quite a lot of radiographers that were involved from one time to another in different quality assurance issues. And especially when departments digitalized, there was a lot of issues to look at because everybody thought to begin with that you didn't have to do much quality control because the digital equipment was so perfect that nothing could go wrong. Right. Now, on to legislation. We basically follow what the European Union decides, and you will see this in our legislation. And regarding optimization, we have this saying that the undertaking, which is basically the hospital, shall ensure optimization of the medical use of radiation. Optimization includes inter alia choice of method, apparatus and equipment, work procedures, assessments of radiation dose and dose distribution to the patient, image quality, and the effect of therapy. The optimization shall be performed multidisciplinary and as a continuous process, and to be evaluated against existing national reference values or professional recommendations when available. So it's a demand for regular quality control and optimization. And as you can see, it doesn't say who is going to do this. It only says it shall be performed multidisciplinary. But how this is performed varies quite a lot, and I will get back to that in a moment. Traditionally, in radiotherapy and nuclear medicine, there has been close collaborations with between radiographers and physicists. And in the latest 10 or 20 years, we got this group called medical physicists that are now quite common. But in diagnostic imaging, this is not the case. It's very much depending on the workplace and access to technical support personnel, and also the personal interest of the radiographers working there. There are a demand for medical physicists to be also in diagnostic imaging departments, but their role is not so obvious as it is within radiation therapy and in nuclear medicine. There is an area of our field that is special, and that is mammography, and especially in the mammography screening program, where radiographers have specific quality control tasks. And I will show you examples of that later on. Of course, all radiology departments have to adapt to the national legislation, which again pretty much adapts to EU regulations and international recommendations. And I will show you some of the I will show you some important examples that relate to quality control for radiographers. Now, back to the mammography program. Mammography screening radiographers are obliged to perform regular technical quality checks in order to ensure optimal function of the mammography unit and accessory equipment. Knowledge of non-conformities is necessary so that equipment with test results outside of reference value is not used. And radiographers also have to document that the recommended tolerance limits are observed. And every department shall, in addition to the requirements of reporting to the National Radiation Protection Agency, have in place internal procedures of measures when deficiencies occur on technical equipment. There are strict requirements for image quality in mammography screening, and it's therefore important to constantly monitor and assess image quality. For this, the mammography program uses a quality rating system called PGMI, which is based on several countries' similar quality system, but which is further developed and adapted to Norwegian conditions. All mammography screening radiographers must accept and understand the importance of quality assessment of individual level screening images, PGMI. And the PGMI assessment is a quality scale where the mammography images are divided into perfect, good, moderately good, and inadequate images. And 75% of the images should be perfect and good, and no more than 3% should be inadequate images. And this is normally assessed at least 3 times per year for all radiographers. Historically, we have also looked at the position statements and recommendations of international organizations like the ISRT, the ICRP, the IAEA, the WHO, and we have recently updated the content of our radiography education, and for my society it's been important to highlight what especially the ISRT and the EFRS, have recommended in the different areas of our education, the different topics in the curricula. And just to show you an example regarding quality control, the ISRT promotes within the scope of practice for radiographers to include competence in quality assurance and quality control within the quality assurance framework, and say that this is essential to assure the delivery of safe, cost-effective and high-quality diagnostic imaging and radiotherapy services. And then also the ISRT outline what it means by quality control. And they even say it's essential that radiographers recognize, record, and report accordingly to policy when a significant deviation in radiation exposure occurs, and that validating quality assurance testing conditions and result is a professional requirement for radiographers. You will also find similarity regarding knowledge in quality control in the statements made by the European Federation of Radiographer Societies. And here in the definition, you will see that radiographers are medical imaging and radiotherapy experts who take an active role in justification and optimization of medical imaging and radiotherapeutic procedures. The FRS also say that radiographers are key persons in radiation safety of patients and third persons in accordance with the ALARA principle and relevant legislations. Further, the EFRS have made a document called the European Qualification Framework Level 6, which describes a wide range of learning objectives agreed to be the entry level to the radiography profession in Europe. And it serves as a point of reference for use by professional bodies like my society, educational institutes, employers, and other relevant bodies throughout Europe. And this is in Norwegian, but it's a copy of what is recommended to be the content in the education of radiographers regarding skills and competences in different areas related to quality assurance. And this comes directly from both recommendations from the ISRT and from the EFRS, and you will find the same wordings in English, though, if you look at this EQF6 document that I just mentioned. And here you can see an example of core knowledge, core skills, and core competencies, and I can enlarge it, then you will see it better. It says here under core skills on quality assurance and innovations that radiographers are performing, recording, and analyzing quality assurance and quality control activities, and to include legislation, regulations and guidelines, test equipment and methodologies, program design and implementation, and reporting or action if outside the agreed quality standard. Also, you will see under core competencies that radiographers take individual responsibility for ensuring that quality control / quality assurance of imaging, radiotherapy, and medical devices is regularly performed in line with current safety standards, guidelines, and regulations. Now I'm told to say something about challenges and the way forward. Well, I believe this is the case in many places, not just in Norway, but for sure in Norway we see that radiographers are running more and more. We are doing more with less time. That means we also have less time for quality assurance and for doing CPD. So we are forced into working more and more, and at the same time trying to keep up with what's demanded regarding competencies and quality assurance. So it's very easy to just forget about things related to quality assurance in CPD and focus on just getting the exams done. So this is an increasing challenge that we need to be aware of, and for my society it's very important to argue for radiographers to have more time, for the radiology department to get more resources, so that we don't just end up being button pushers working without thinking. We have to avoid that new technology and other professions are becoming our sleeping pillows. And also we have to increase the awareness of the profession. Especially if we become just button pushers, our role will be even more invisible to others than it already is. People will not see the use of us at the end, I fear. So we have to be aware of our role. We have to keep updated. We have to know what is happening before we push the button, when we push the button, and after we have pushed the button. And with AI coming in, we have to make sure that we don't stop thinking. We have to act as a sense check to all AI-supported clinical decisions, like, for example, planning of CT scanning. We need to know what's going on, how things are working, and we need to detect when things are not working as they are supposed to. So no, we don't just push the button. I'm sure you have followed the the previous World Radiography days that we have had, and many of those have focused on safety issues and quality controls. And this one is from 2019, and I think it fits very nicely with this webinar series on quality control, where we say that your safety is our priority, and the radiographer is promoting and maintaining safety culture. And we have to keep this in mind, and we have to prepare for the future so that we don't forget this. And that's what I was planning to say. Thank you for the attention, and have a nice evening.
All right, thank you, Hakan, for you're very informative. You guys will see that the practice would vary from one place to another. We now heard from the America and Europe already. I took some note about what Hakan has just said also, but we will go back to the Q&A session later. And for the question and answer, please leave your message on the message box, as I said before, and then we will get back to your question at the Q&A session. And now we have the third speaker. The third speaker is from Nigeria. We are very happy to have our Nigerian colleague with us today. We have Professor Christian Satta, and he is the professor and also clinical radiographer practice in Nigeria. And we have to thank the Nigerian Society to support the speaker for us today. And we would like to have Professor Satta to present now.
Quality control of radiological equipment as a role for radiographers. A paper presented by Professor Christian Nzota, Nnamdi University, Awka, Nigeria, to the 4th Facebook Live section of International Society of Radiographers and Radiological Technologies. As a way of introduction, I would want to define quality control as the part of quality assurance programs that deals with the techniques, that's the checks, the tests, and the measurements that are used in monitoring and maintenance of recommended standards. In a work conducted by Langston et al. In 2001, he reviewed the study of management of equipment in the program of radiodiagnostic radiology and concluded that quality assurance of equipment used for medical exposure of patients to ionizing radiation is a legal requirement placed on all radiology departments. The importance of its implementation includes not only improvement of the technical performance as required by law, but also the optimum use of equipment and other resources. Advantages. Quality control maximizes profit by reducing the cost of production. It enhances cost-effective service to the patients. It reduces the radiation dose to the patient. It saves time, has educational achievements, ethical achievements, reduces equipment downtime, and projects the image of the department better. The factors of quality control include the human factor, information factor, and the equipment factor. The basic tests are type testing, acceptance testing, commissioning, periodic maintenance, and appraisals. Quality control team in every hospital setting should include the hospital management, the radiographers, the medical physicists, the radiologists, and of course, the technicians. Quality control procedures are carried out on a weekly basis or annually or daily, as the case may be. Sometimes it could be a little more frequent depending on the status of the equipment, if it has just gone through repairs, and the quality control services are considered essential or necessary or important. As you can see, the various equipment that should go through quality control procedures and the meters used. Some of these equipments are not very well known to the radiographer or the quality control team. It is also important for us to note that there are different protocols for quality control depending on the type of modality. For conventional radiography, the major criteria for quality control include the measurement of the kV accuracy, the kV output reproducibility, the MA reproducibility, and output linearity test, the timer linearity test, the beam alignment, collimation, and perpendicularity. Leakage radiation tests and X-ray room scatter radiation are tested on a regular basis. In conventional radiography, various procedures have different personnel that handle the service. Some of them are handled on installation, some after repair, or some after when necessary. In mammography, the criteria are high-value layer measurement, automatic exposure control reproducibility, automatic exposure control density control function, compression device, image quality assessment, view box luminance, ambient light luminance, and collimator light luminance. It is also important to check the entrance skin dose and average glandular dose. In fluoroscopy, display monitor performance test, image geometry and size test, image quality evaluation, focal spot size test, and the maximum entrance dose rate and image intensifier unit. Digital radiography. There are so many procedures that one would have to look at, so many protocols, which of course are encapsulated in the digital radiography phantom evaluation, digital radiography visual display evaluation, and dry laser printer test. In ultrasonography, the major criteria are the measurement for resolution, which includes the axial, the temporal, and the lateral resolution, the image quality index, the soft wave data accuracy, the access to and retrieval of information from the system, performance parametric verification of all controls and operational units and components. The quality control tests for dental X-ray machines include beam alignment, collimation, filtration, radiation output, time accuracy, etc. It is important for us to note that quality control is a dynamic process and it's a joint responsibility of every radiology worker. The radiographer has the central role to play in equipment quality control of the department. The responsibility of producing good quality image and reducing radiation dose to both staff and patients is his. And this is what quality control intends to achieve. He should not abdicate his responsibility to any other. And of course, the radiographer should see quality control not as role extension, but it is his primary responsibility, as the production of image and the dose reduction is also his responsibility. It is also important for us to recommend for the effective and efficient compliance of the radiography to the recommended standards that all radiography training curricula should compulsorily have quality control courses and hands-on practical section of not less than 12 credit hours. Clinical posting of radiography students in hospitals should include quality control. Career progression, designation of radiographers should include quality control officer of a certain level or rank. The certification for practice by the board should include quality control certification. And of course, radiographers should see quality control as integral part of his duty. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Professor, for your comprehensive talk. And this is the Voice from Africa that is very important to us. I took note from what Professor Zapsa talked about, and I liked the sentence that he mentioned about radiographer would see QC as integral part of the practice, and I think this is very important. And the Q&A session, we will come back to you. And for tonight, we have the last speaker, and we are honored to have the speaker from Taiwan. Let me say hello to our colleague in Taiwan. Taiwan, Ta Ke Ho. I just speak Taiwanese to our colleague, and we are so honored to have President Du Junyuan, and he's the president of Taiwan Association of Medical Radiation Technologists, and he will come here to share the perspective of QC as the role of radiographer or technologist in Taiwan. Please go ahead, Mr. Du. Mr. Du.
President Dr. Napapong, invited speaker, ladies and gentlemen, good day. Before we begin, let me introduce myself briefly. I'm Junyuan Du, the president of Taiwan Association of Medical Radiation Technologists. It's great to be here with you today. My topic is quality control of radiological equipment as the role of radiographer in Taiwan. Taiwan is a small country in Asia. Taiwan has amazing sceneries, delicious food, and especially the national healthy insurance. Now let's turn to the main subject. The Ministry of Health and Welfare is responsible for the administration of the public health system, social welfare, health care, hospital, disease prevention in Taiwan. Also, it is in charge of the practicing medical personnel. The Atomic Energy Council is responsible for protecting the public health and radiation safety. The environment from the effects of the radiation from the nuclear materials and the facility. So I think QC is a part of radiographers' professional practice. According to the Article 12 of Medical Radiation Technologies Act, we perform the A functions, as you can see on the slides. Quality control embraces all aspects of the diagnostic imaging process. So therefore, QC is a part of radiographers' professional practice in Taiwan. Next, I will talk about QC education and training. In our country, not all of the schools have the QC education and training. But when you practicing, all of the hospitals have the QC education and training. Especially we have the postgraduate year training system for 2 years. According to the Article 17 of the Iron Radiation Protection Act and the standards for the medical exposure quality assurance, the radiographers need to perform CT QC in Taiwan. The AEC, in order to improve the quality of radiological diagnostic and treatment, and to reduce unnecessary radiation exposure received by patients, a medical exposure QC plan is required for the following equipment. As you can see, QC plan includes radiation therapy and mammography and CT. Medical exposure QC plan should be approved by AEC. It should be include QC organization, procedure menu, QC quality, QC calibration items, and frequency results, and the tolerance of the calibrations, handling and improving method when the tolerance is divided. According to the AEC regulation, we call professional quality control professional personnel who perform QC. It has 2 types of QC, which are non-annual quality control and annual quality control. The non-annual quality control personnel, for the initial certification, you should have the basic qualification. It means you should be a radiographer specialist or pass the QC certification, as I mentioned. And you still need to have the 3 hours training course. For annual quality control person, the initial certification, you should have the basic qualification. For the mammography and the CT, you should have the 8 hours training course. Besides, you should have the QC experience 2 times for mammography and the QC experience for 1 year in radiation therapy. If you want to extend the certification, you should have the 3 hours QC continuing course each year, and you should have the QC experience twice a year for mammography, QC experience once a year for CT. The current situation in Taiwan, the Department of Radiology and the Department of Nuclear Medicine, radiographer and engineer perform QC. In radiation oncology, is radiographer and medical physicists perform QC. And next, I would talk about the challenge to perform QC on radiological equipment. As we know, if medical equipment is not included in the regulation as defined in official standards, it won't be mandatory to acquire centers and the equipment for hospital. And the QC activity is only a part-time job, and most of the QC radiographer are part-time job. It will be additional heavy workload for the radiographer. However, we're still doing our job to take care of the patient safety. Finally, I would like to talk about our future work. In this year, the TAMRT gets the project from the AC in Taiwan, and we get it off ground. The purpose of this project is to conduct on-site validity on the diagnostic medical image, including 50 CT scanner, 50 mammography X-ray equipment, and 100 interventional X-ray equipment. In the process of the project, we will analyze the data and the comparison with the international reference. For our purpose is the first is renew the mammography and the CT QC menu, and the second is make a suggestion that interventional fluoroscopy X-ray should be included in medical exposure quality control regulation. So today's topic is about the Taiwan QC situation. Thank you for your attention. So today's topic is about Taiwan.
All right, thank you very much, President Du, for your comprehensive talk. And I think we all see that Taiwan has a very good system in this case of quality control for the radiological equipment, especially the clear role of the technologists. And from now, we will come to the session for the Q&A session. And before we go ahead, I would like our President, Ms. Donna Newman, to say something to the audience.
Hello, everyone. Greetings. As ISRT president, you can see from our 4 speakers that we had some really great member societies that have very advanced quality control programs and can serve as different types of backdrops for people to use if they're beginning to develop quality control. And I'm excited to hear what our panelists have to say about how to promote quality control among radiographers.
Thank you, Donna. Let me go ahead with the first question from the audience, and thank you so much, our colleague from around the world that you have been watching us and supporting us. The first question comes from Frankie Jacobus Dimpudus. I think I know this guy from Indonesia. The question is, for conducting QC in radiology diagnostic department, how to manage the role and responsibility between radiographers and medical physicists. I think we go ahead with the US first, Mike.
Sure. What I would say is that we're not replacing a medical physicist. We're an extension of what a medical physicist does. We're the ones that are using the equipment on a daily basis. We're the ones that know when something just doesn't seem right and when something might need to be tested further. So, testing on a daily basis, in some cases weekly, monthly, will provide information to the medical physicist so that when they come to do their tests, they have some background information, but also if there's something that happens in between their visits, it can be solved.
All right, that's very clear answer, and I think that this is pretty similar to many countries. And I would like to go back to Norway. Hakan, can you give us the response according to this question?
Yes, sure. I agree very much with what Mike just said. It's the same situation in Norway and most European countries, I think, that there is basically teamwork between radiographers and medical physicists where you have the both professions. In some countries, you don't have medical physicists available. So radiographers basically does all the things that is needed to be done. But where you have the both, you would normally see that radiographers do much of the daily quality control tasks, and when it's when you're establishing baseline performances, you would normally work together with a medical physicist because it would be required to do some more advanced measurements and analysis that not many radiographers have taught in their education. Some may have learned this after on, but that would be the normal thing. So there's basically teamwork when you're doing more advanced measurements, and in daily practice, radiographers work pretty much alone with a lot of quality control issues.
Thank you, Hakan. And let me take this question back to Taiwan. Taiwan has a unique situation here from what Mr. Du presented to us, that the role of QC in diagnostic radiology goes to technologists and the engineers. So I would like to hear from you, what is the current situation in Taiwan?
Thanks for the question. The situation in Taiwan, as you can see, my topic, the Department of the Radiology and Nuclear Medicine. Now, annual quality control was performed by radiographer, and the annual quality control was performed by the engineer. And in radiation oncology, we have a radiographer and a medical physicist. So the annual quality control person is the medical physicist. Yeah, that's the Taiwan situation.
All right, so this is quite unique, and I think from Nigeria, Professor Sapsa, you just come back, right? You might not hear the question. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, the question from Frankie is that for conducting QC in radiology diagnostic department, how to manage role and responsibility between the radiographers and the medical physicists in your country?
Yes, like I said in the presentation, it is a teamwork. Everybody has a role to play. There are aspects of the quality control program that are exclusively handled by radiographers. There are some that are exclusively handled by the medical physicists. And there are some that the technologists, we call the technicians, handle. But in diagnostic radiography, these quality control measurements are phased out, they are compartmentalized. For each phase, there is a competent authority that handles it. For instance, the kilovoltage output, there is a standard kit, the quality control kit. The medical physicist does that periodically to ensure that the output is what it should be. And where there are shortfalls, there are abnormalities, the physicists would invite the engineer who would now make up for the lapse. There are times when the radiographer feels that this output is not what it should be. And there are little things he could do, like line voltage compensation. The output may drop as a result of low line voltage. And the radiographer could go ahead and do the line voltage compensation without reverting to the physicist or any other body. So it is entirely a team.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. We get the message from every country. This is the team approach, right? And let me move to the Donna. You have anything to say for now, or we can go ahead with the next question?
We'll go ahead with the next question. I think our panelists have covered it explicitly.
All right. The next question comes from Indonesia again, from Gatot Murti. The question, especially to US and Europe, I think this question posed before he heard the Taiwanese and the Nigerian colleague spoke. So I may reword that question to the other two speakers too. The question include the first one: what is the regulatory agency that responsible or role such a collaboration between radiologic technologists and medical physicists in clinical practice? I'm not sure what does this mean by this question. Right? Let me repeat again. I think what he means is that in the legislation, does it say clearly that this is in the QC activity is the collaborative between technologists and the physicists? This is the first question. All right. And then the second question, do you think the radiographers need to get specific license to perform QA/QC before they can go ahead and do so? All right, let me go to the US first. Mike.
Yeah, so maybe the second question first, in terms of a specific license. It's interesting in the United States where we used to have we still have a quality management certification, but the certification body has stopped granting that for several different reasons. And the primary reason being that quality control should really be not just the job of one person, it's the job of everybody.
Okay.
So if you're working in CT, for example, you need to understand quality control in CT. I think a secondary reason is that every modality has become increasingly complex over the years. And I think it's difficult for one person at the technologist level to be able to have a really good understanding of all of the quality control that's going on in all of the different modalities. So really, I think, I don't think, even though I do have a quality management certification, I think since it's the job of every radiographer out there, there's really no need for a separate certification. I'm glad I went through it just to learn the content, but you can do that without the certification.
All right, that's what the US has to say. Let's move to Europe and from Norway. What is your response to these two questions? A regulation, legislation, or do you need the license to do the QC?
Well, to answer the last question first, I would say no, you don't need a special license. The only license that you have would be your proof of being a radiographer, and of course you can do postgraduate education in different modalities, and parts of those programs will also have quality assurance issues built in. So you will be more qualified to take on that responsibility. But basically, when you get out of your bachelor education, you have some competences that you will build on in practice, so that you can be involved more and more in quality control and quality assurance issues. But of course, when you're newly graduated, you will not feel comfortable doing this alone. So it will be somebody that takes care of you and teaches you how to do this. And also maybe you will be doing this in a team together with the medical physicist. And the first question regarding who defines the different roles, that would be the national authorities. And as I said in my presentation, most European countries have to follow what the European Union decides. But sometimes that can be quite broad, and you will always find national exemptions and different solutions to how to meet this European regulation. So it will vary from country to country. But basically, it's a national legislation issue.
All right, thanks, Hagen. And for Taiwan, do you have any response to the question?
I want to chip in there. Sorry, I want to say something fundamental there.
Okay, Kristen, you can still go ahead first.
Yes, I think the answer to that question is yes and no. A radiographer should not be made to get a certification for quality control in those specific areas that are his obligation in the department. If you listen to my presentation, you would notice that some of the quality control procedures are done annually, some are done daily, some are done weekly. It's a periodic thing. There are times when the radiographer would need instant action, like the measurement of the spotlight. If he leaves that responsibility for the physicist, the job will be delayed. Agreed. There are some, like measurement of the focal spot size, like the measurement of automatic exposure systems. The physicist has to do that. And for a radiographer to do that, he needs some measure of certification and further training. But if the radiographer must have to get a certification for those responsibilities that are in his primary training as a radiographer, the job will be delayed.
Okay.
And some people may not want to do their jobs well.
All right.
Thank you.
Point taken. Thank you. And let's move to Taiwan. In Taiwan, I think you have different situation, because the first question is that what we need to know is the legislation in your country you already presented in your presentation, and also the specific license for technologists to perform QC. I heard from your presentation about something like additional training, but per se, do you really need the additional license in your opinion?
Yes, as you can see in my topic, we need a certification that if you are a radiographer, you just have a basic qualification. If you want to perform the QC, you need to training 8 hours or have some QC experience. That's for the initial certification. And we also need to extension our certification. So we need to have a continual education course. Okay, thank you.
All right, this is unique situation. I think in Thailand we are pretty much the same like Taiwan, and this is the way forward in East Asia. So yeah. Donna, you have something to say in this regards?
Yes, I do. I appreciate the different types of experience that people have around the world, but the international organization, we actually promote and believe that quality control is within the scope and the role of a radiographer's practice. We do believe in the team approach. We do believe that every part of the imaging team has a role, but we advocate that you work together. A radiographer needs to understand how the equipment works. They're the frontline staff. They're the first people that see a deviation when something goes wrong. So they may perform those daily, weekly, monthly, but when you're doing your quarterly and your yearly, you need to be beside the physicist. You need to be working with him. You need to understand the equipment and what is happening. So when you're doing your daily work and your weekly work, you can understand when something goes wrong. So as an international organization, we promote a team approach and believe it's within our scope of practice.
All right, thanks, Donna. I have another question from Korea, from Tae-Yoon Kim. This is the continuous question from the previous one asked by Katot from Indonesia. The question from Tae-Yoon is that, are there or is there any formalized curriculum or program for QC specialists that the professional society or other organizations provide? Well, this is quite tricky situation, but it depends on the practice. So I think, Mike, can you have the opinion on this first? The situation in the US.
Yeah, what I would say is, once again, it's integrated into the, we call them content specifications, the outline for the certification exam for all the different certifications that are, that are offered. Quality control is a component of that. So, any educational product that we're creating, it's just a natural, if there's 10 modules, one of them is going to be about quality control. It's just a natural part of what occurs.
All right, thank you. How can anything in Europe similar to this kind of the practice where you get special course for radiographers to do QC training course?
Well, there are different courses like the ones that my society organize that focus on also on quality control and quality assurance issues, but there's no dedicated postgraduate education that you can take. You have the different modalities, and you have in radiation protection, but there's no license that I know of that you can take a course and get. But I know that there is a demand in most national legislations that whenever you buy a new piece of equipment, a new CT scanner, for example, there has to be a vendor's representative present to teach all the users how to use this properly and also how to do quality control on it and make sure that it works as it's supposed to. So you're not allowed to use that equipment before this is done, and this has to be documented. And it's something that the National Authority in Radiation Protection would check when they come on surprise visits.
All right, thanks, Hakan. Professor Satsa, do you have anything about this in your practice? Can you unmute your microphone first? Okay.
Yes, I'm sorry about that. In Nigeria, what we do is at a particular rank from principal radiography, you could be assigned the duty of quality control. You will be the quality control officer of the department, and you are to report every abnormality to the quality control team. Every radiographer who finds anything that is not proper will report to you, and you report to the team. And if there is a new equipment, for instance, you would have to join the quality control team in the training of the quality management of that equipment. This way, the management does not have to send all radiographers for further training. If you are going for a CEC, it falls within your scope to do CEC in quality control. Others may go for different other areas. So at a time, you have one quality control officer who is a radiographer in the radiology department.
All right, thank you very much for the information. This is very interesting to see a different part of the world doing things so different, and now we would like to hear from Taiwan. I know that from your presentation, President, you talk about it. Do you want to elaborate a little bit about the additional course that you train your people to do QC?
Yeah. And I also want to tell everybody just in Taiwan, when we are practicing, all of the hospital have QC education and training. When we, especially we have the postgraduate year training system for 2 years. In our training course, we all have to training the non-annual QC quality control. But if a radiographer want to learning the annual quality control, so he must to training for 8 hours for another course. Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Taiwan. Donna, I think this is very interesting. We might think about the education course or online training in QC for specific modality. What do you think?
Yeah, we have actually taken note from what we have heard, and it's very good information. I do want to highlight to all the people listening, if you go to the website for the ISRT and you are looking for education and resources under the professional practice tab, we actually do have outlines of what quality control is needed. We have covered CT, digital radiography, and mammography. And so there are resources there if you're looking to know what to do for quality control in those modalities, the daily, the weekly, the monthly, the yearly. That is all listed out in a downloadable material that you can use. We actually are in the process of developing nuclear medicine and DEXA scanning. And so those will be coming in the near future. And so I just want to highlight that there are some resources available, but we have noted asking for education, and we will take that back to the board and see what we can do for our member societies.
All right, thanks, Donna. I have another question from our physicist colleague, but I think I will read the question, but I think we did answer in our comments already about this. Well, the question from Victor is that if the technologists do QC in radiology and radiation therapy, what is the role of medical physicists? Of course, we already clearly said that this is the team approach, right? We do not replace the physicist's job. We do things together. It's the collaborative approach. And I think we have a couple of the comments from the audience. But basically, people say that they are very happy about of our program here today, and it's wonderful. And I think we have to thank for all the speakers that contribute for your talk and the Q&A session. Donna, do you want to talk a little bit about the position statement of the ISRT so that our member know what are we doing at the moment? Can you unmute your microphone too? Just wait a second before Donna, you need to unmute your microphone.
To see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Okay, I just want to bring attention to the ISRT's position statement that we have on quality control. For those countries that are out there that need hospital policies that say the radiographers have a role in quality control, or maybe they want to go to legislation or the regulatory body and say that there is a team approach to integrated team approach to quality control and that each team member has a role. The ISRT has developed a position statement that you can go to the ISRT website and download. And it covers all the areas of quality control, including the monitoring, evaluating, maintenance, analyzing, documenting, and going to the vendors when you see a deviation, and working with the physicists when you go to that quarterly or that yearly, showing that we all have a role in quality control, but definitely the radiographers, there is a role in quality control. So please use this position statement in your countries, download it and use it for legislation, use it for hospital policy, use it for building a protocol, because all the information is there, as well as using our documents that we have for guidance. And if you need reference documents for mammography, for doing quality control, we have reference documents. We have some PowerPoints on digital radiography and performing quality control and digital radiography, some guidance documents that you can download our team approach. And also you can see we have quality control in CT, how to perform weekly and daily. So we hope that we have great resources. If we're missing resources for you, you just need to let us know, and we're happy to serve our members and provide them with the information that is needed. And I have to thank our panelists. I think that they did a great job. Our member societies have expertise and are great resources for our members to share and dialogue on how to do things and to share practice ideas. So I really have to thank you for participating and sharing around the world what's happening in your country. I think it's fantastic.
Thank you, Donna. Before we close the program today, I just want to hear something like the final word from our speakers for today. If you have anything to deliver the message for the audience from around the world, because not only the radiographers colleague will watch us from this live broadcast, but the recorded video will be on our Facebook platform for another 2 weeks until we have the next episode coming in. So let's start from Mike.
Yeah, I would just reiterate that, quality control is a team sport. The medical physicist should be your best friend. And if you want to get started, that's the best resource for you, is to talk to your medical physicist that comes in if you have access to one. And just getting started simple. It doesn't have to be too hard, but we should be making life easier for the physicist, the radiologist, and ultimately our patients.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. And Hakan, your turn.
Yes, thank you. Then I would conclude by saying that I like to compare the radiographers and their equipment with the situation of a race driver and his or her car, because we, in order to know how everything works, and when it doesn't work, we need to really feel it, to be able to fine tune it and make sure it performs as well as it is supposed to. We have to know the things behind what we see, and also in order to communicate with the technical personnel, that being the medical physicists, we know we have to know what could have gone wrong and what are the limitations, what are the normal performances of equipment. So that will be my final last word.
Now you're ready for your summer vacation. I will let you go for vacation from now, Hakan, believe me.
Thank you.
And next we have Kristen. Do you have anything to say to the audience? Unmute your microphone first, please. Okay.
Yes, thank you. One of the essential ingredients of quality control is continuous quality improvement.
Okay.
And for us to have an effective quality improvement, we need an upgrade in our knowledge. There are some training programs and curricula that do not have a comprehensive training on quality control for radiographers. We could increase and improve the content of our various radiography training curricula in the area of quality control. That way, the radiographers' knowledge will be upgraded. Some curricula had existed for over 20 years when there were no aspects of quality control in magnetic resonance imaging and CT. So we could upgrade the quality of our programs. We may even increase the duration of our programs. That way, the radiographer will continually remain relevant in the scheme of things, in the contemporary radiology programs we run in the various hospitals. Thank you very much. God bless you.
Thank you, Professor Satsa. Thanks a lot for joining us. And we have the last speaker, President Du. You have anything to say to the audience?
Hey, thank you. I think quality control is very important for radiographer because when we perform a QC, the clinical scan parameter is very important. We need to use the clinical scan parameter to perform the right QC parameter. And as you can see, the situation in Taiwan, we are not in diagnosis. In the Department of Radiology and Nuclear Medicine, we are not a teamwork. Maybe in the near future, we have medical physicists to share our annual quality control. Yeah, and thank you.
All right, thanks, President Du. And last but not least, we have broadcast many episodes, but I always forget to thank my very good friends, Dr. Yuttapon Vichianin. He's the Director of Education for ISRT, and he's take care of all the technical work, and he works very hard to make this broadcast happen. Thank you, Yuttapon, for your hard work. And again, thank you so much for all the speakers, Mike Kudlas, Hakan Jamli, Kristen Satsa, and Chun Yuan Du. All right, and President Donna Newman. And I hope you enjoy our episode, and please stay tuned for the next episode. If you have any comments, you can leave it on the comment box, or you can send a message to us in case you want us to host any specific topics that of your interest. We will take a look at it, and then we will come back to you. And thank you very much, everyone. And have a nice morning, nice afternoon, and nice evening. Goodbye.